was really excited to be heading off on my next hiking trip. I'd been looking forward to it and planning the route for a while. It was going to be around 13 to 14 miles, a circular route that I'd worked out for myself, starting and ending in the village of Brockenhurst in the New Forest. The New Forest is a 219 square mile national park on the south coast of England. I'd been on a walking weekend there 17 years ago and always wanted to go back to explore some more. I'd been holding out for a sunny day, and the day was perhaps going to be a little too warm, but I was pretty sure I'd be fine. I've had plenty of experience hiking in some hot parts of the world, and I had plenty of water with me. I set off before 9 AM to give myself enough time to walk all day with a 90-minute train journey at the start and at the end. I had a new book to read on the train that my mum had sent me. I started to see glimpses of forest through the window. Pretty soon I was off the train and walking through Brockenhurst. I'd remembered the village being full of free-roaming animals like ponies and cows, and I wasn't disappointed. Really excited to have already seen a baby donkey within the first 5 minutes, I headed out through the outskirts of the village. It was a little late in the season for the rhododendron flowers, but the path was beautiful and I was really excited to be heading out among the trees. I'm walking across a bit of open moorland at the moment called White Moor. I wasn't able to see any kind of potential path that I was supposed to be following, but I'm just kind of following what the app's telling me to do at the moment. There is a road to my right, so I'm kind of just following that, but staying on the moor so that I don't have to walk along the road. Obviously the New Forest is very foresty, but it does have these areas of open moor that are really beautiful, so I did want to incorporate some of this on my route, but I'm really glad that I kind of put it at the start of the route, because if it's going to get any hotter throughout the day, I'm kind of doing it at the earliest point that I possibly could. I mean, it seems like there's maybe a little path ahead of me now, fingers crossed, but yeah, I'm not on this moor for very long, so hopefully I should be heading into the woods soon. I spotted this shady little nook, really sweet, with 3 trees in the middle of a little kind of circle of gorse, and look what I found in the middle of it.
That's one of the things I love so much about hiking, is that you can kind of look at a map or read about a place and kind of imagine what it's going to look like, but until you're kind of up close, it's never kind of what you're expecting. Because back there I saw on the map that I was coming up to a stream and I thought, cool, a stream, that'd be nice, but it was way more interesting than that. It was these little pools, just full of fish, loads and loads of dragonflies. The dragonflies were a bit too fast to film, but yeah, absolutely beautiful and not at all what I was expecting. Luckily my path goes past the nesting area and not through it. A bit of cloud coming in now, which is actually giving me a bit of shade, which is quite nice. We're heading off the moor into the forest now, and there's a crow squawking at me.
When I entered in among the trees, I found myself surrounded by more foxgloves than I had ever seen in one place before. Some of them were incredibly tall. I emerged onto a road which I realised was the Rhinefield Ornamental Drive, a beautiful road lined with some impressively huge trees, which allows visitors the opportunity to see a particularly stunning section of the forest by car. The air was filled with a pine scent. I've arrived at the Arboretum. I think it's called the Blackwater Arboretum in the New Forest, which I was planning to have a look at. I think I still am going to have a look, but the car park is really, really busy. There's way more people here than I expected. I mean, it's a beautiful day, so I guess it makes sense, but I think I'm not going to spend a massive amount of time here because I'm about a third of the way through my route and I've still got a fair bit to go. So I think I will just have a quick look. If I can see some nice redwood trees and things just for 5 minutes or so, I'll have a little look. There's a few different trails that's famous for redwoods and Douglas fir. I mean, to be honest, I'm surrounded by Douglas fir at the moment anyway in the picnic area. So, I mean, I don't feel like I need to really go into the Arboretum, but I will. I'll have a little quick look. Yeah, I was walking along kind of desperately hoping I'd find somewhere good to sit and have my lunch. And when I first headed into the woods, there was a guy sort of strumming at this hotel and it was really, really loud. And I don't think, you know, the sound of power tools is a very relaxing sound to sit and have your lunch with. So I kept going and I kept going and I made it to the Arboretum and then thought, oh, well, there's a whole picnic area here with bathrooms and a little ice cream hut thing. I haven't had an ice cream. I might wait till a little bit later in the day, but yeah, all the tables were taken up, so I just sat on the ground, surrounded by Douglas firs and had my lunch. So now I'm going to go and have a look and see what kind of trees I can see inside there. Here are the beautiful Douglas firs that I sat and had my lunch underneath.
they've got this really amazing kind of thick, gnarly bark.
My path away from the Arboretum took me past many more spectacular trees and then into some ferny deciduous woodland which was blissfully quiet apart from a few jays in the treetops.
A little New Forest fact for you. This forest was designated a royal forest, or hunting ground really, by William the Conqueror back in the day. The only other sort of historical fact I know about this forest is that the timber was used for shipbuilding in the 18th century for the Navy. Oh, and I did read that there's a hotel in Lyndhurst, which I'm heading towards now in the village, where the D-Day landings were planned. So I'm going to see if I think I might walk past that. So if I do, I'll show it to you. So I left the area where the Arboretum is, which is kind of ridiculously manicured and pretty, and it was just full of people. And I've been walking quite fast through this area of more wild kind of woodland. I'm just going quite fast now because I'm trying to gain some ground. I spent a lot of time faffing around and filming on the first little section of this hike. I'm heading north towards a village called Lyndhurst, which I've never been to before, so that's quite exciting. The way I planned the route for this was quite funny. Because I live in London, then there's not many if I want to practice hill walking where I am, there's not a lot of options. And I Googled, I didn't think there would be a lot of hills in this area either because we're right on the south coast. I Googled, are there any hills in the New Forest? And I found a few small hills. I think the highest point in the New Forest is about 400 and something feet. Also, because I'm coming by train, I think there's only 2 stations in the New Forest. So if you're coming by train, you've got to go to one of those 2 places, and they're both on one side of the New Forest, which is a massive area, but you're kind of limited to that side. And some of the hills that I was considering were way on the other side and really too far to reach on a day hike, especially if I wanted to do a circular walk and not sort of trudge for miles in one direction and then come straight back. So there's kind of a hill, Lyndhurst. It remains to be seen how much of a hill it is. It was just on the list of beautiful kind of spots, and so I just picked that in the end. It's also quite nice to have a village. It's kind of just beyond the midpoint of the hike before I head back down to Brockenhurst and get the train out, because if I'm sort of hungry or I've run out of water, I know I've got that place where I can stop and get something if I need it. And yeah, it's just a little village that I haven't visited before. I was so excited to get into Brockenhurst earlier and find those donkeys in the street. That absolutely made my day. Just like in my Little Withers hiking video, which was I think 2 videos ago now, I'm not sure, but yeah, getting off the train and being greeted by a chicken in the street. The New Forest is a kind of huge area of unfenced, is that the right word? Unfenced pasture land. So yeah, there are roaming ponies and donkeys and things all over the place, including in the villages, which is always really nice to see. I noticed that some of the buildings in the village had cattle grids right in front of them, because obviously if you're a keen gardener, you don't want the donkeys coming in. Yeah, so I'm going to keep going sort of at quite a pace now to get to Lyndhurst, and then I've got to sort of walk back down south towards Brockenhurst to get the train back to London. Wow, some really big fallen trees here. Let's go and have a look. These are almost like gardens on top of the logs. It's really cool. So I'm basically just following this road into Lyndhurst now, nearly there. Just realised as well, when I said earlier about the hotel where the Eisenhower and that lot were planning D-Day landings, I said Lyndhurst, it's Brockenhurst where that is, so I won't see that till right at the end of the walk. The good thing about this walk today is, yeah, I can head back whenever I'm ready, so there's no need to rush, unlike some of my recent hikes. I'm thinking of the two in Scotland in particular, where I had particular trains and the tides that I had to beat for those. I was thinking it's quite funny how it's only, for some reason, only just kind of dawned on me that I can do hikes like this kind of whenever I want by myself. For some reason, I always kind of associated going off on a long hike with being on holiday, or being up in Scotland, visiting my mum, because in Scotland, you know, it's an amazing place for hiking, and there's not a huge amount to do there that's not outdoors based. But yeah, it wasn't until earlier this year that I really kind of thought, I could just go pretty much any time that I can spare a day from work or whatever. I think I always used to assume, you know, I would have to either go with my boyfriend or with a friend if a friend wanted to do a hike. So it's been quite nice to just kind of realise that I can take myself off for a day out, walking kind of any time I want, really. I guess I had some kind of feelings of nerves about how safe it is as a woman to kind of be off in the middle of nowhere by myself. I jog around London all the time, and there are parts of like wooded bits that I won't go into by myself, but so far I found this absolutely fine. I've always felt quite safe in Scotland, and yeah, these two English countryside ones that I've done this year, yeah, I felt perfectly safe. There's an absolutely huge tractor up ahead of me, completely blocking the road.
Ahead of me I could see the spire of St Michael and All Angels Church, where apparently Alice Liddell is buried, the girl who inspired Alice in Wonderland. But my route didn't take me close to the church, it took me around the edge of the village and towards the small hill I was heading for.
Here's the little hill just outside of Lyndhurst. Up there is Bolton's Bench, which is a little circle over yew trees with benches all the way around the edge, and you can kind of look out in all directions. It's very pretty. And ponies all around. There's ponies ahead of me right now. I'll show you in a minute. But yeah, I kind of skirted through Lyndhurst. I didn't really go into the village centre, so I didn't see any shops. Luckily, I've still got water. I don't really feel like I need anything. So I'm just going to keep going now to Brockenhurst and see how long it takes me to get back there. Let's have a look at these ponies now.
I walked a short way along the road out of Lyndhurst and was soon heading into the forest again. I found myself on the most challenging part of my route, bushwhacking through overgrown foliage and walking on ground that had been churned up by horses' hooves. There were also sections where it was unclear if there was actually a path there at all.
Just did a bit of bushwhacking there because I went completely off the path somehow, but I found my way back again. I've done about 11 miles I think so far, and maybe have 2 or 3 left, we'll see. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting back to Brockenhurst and getting myself some kind of treat. This bit of the woods is absolutely full of squirrels. It's just hundreds of them, and I also saw a deer, but it was way too fast for me to film it. That's about all I have in terms of updates at the moment. I'll let you know when I'm getting close to Brockenhurst. My birdsong app tells me that these are sparrowhawks that I can hear in the background, kind of wailing, shrieking sound. One thing I'm really grateful for at this stretch of woodland path is the shade, because I knew it was going to be a really hot day today. I packed sunscreen, but when I went to reapply it halfway through the day, I found that I had packed the wrong thing, and it's just a bottle of moisturiser. So yeah, I did put a lot on before I left the house, and I've just been trying to stay in the shade as much as possible. So this little woodland bit has been really nice for that. My goodness, this last little bit has been tough. I keep losing the path, and I just had to shimmy under a fence because ended up on the wrong side of a fence. But yeah, I also keep wanting to walk with my poles, but the path is so hard to keep track of that I have to have my phone open constantly to check that I'm not going wrong. So yeah, quite tired now. But yeah, definitely on the right path now, and it shouldn't be too much further. This bit of track is very welcome. I just did a bit where I was on one bit of path, and then there was a connecting bit to this track, which really, I mean, had been a path at one point, but was completely overgrown, and I had to kind of go through shoulder-high ferns and things. And I felt like I could still hear things in the woods, deer maybe, or maybe it's just really noisy squirrels. But yeah, it was a bit spooky because I could hear noises all around me as I was bushwhacking through these very dense ferns. Anyway, making good progress towards Brockenhurst now. The track led me onto a paved road which ended at a campsite filled with wandering ponies.
From the campsite I headed back to the station, passing the Balmer Lawn Hotel, where some of the Normandy invasion orders were issued from during the Second World War. I made it to the station just in time for my train.
Hi, so there's a couple of reasons why I'm doing my final chat to camera on a different day. So my hike ended up being a few miles longer than I thought it was going to be, but I was expecting that. I've talked before in my vlogs about how the app that we use frequently underestimates distance by a couple of miles at least. So I ended up walking just over 15 miles, I think, which was fine. I'd really wanted a nice long all-day walk, but it did mean that by the end of it I was quite tired. So I finished up walking into that campsite, and right at the end of the campsite before I went into the village there was a little kiosk with cold drinks and I thought, right, I need to put my hiking poles away and get myself organised and find out what the train times are. So I sat and had a cold drink there. It was really lovely. And then it was just a 20-minute walk to the station. I didn't really get to see much of the village because there was a train due sort of in 25 minutes, which was amazing timing. I'd had this thought that I would really like to have a cold beer on the train back. And I was wondering if I was going to pass a place that would allow me to grab one. And luckily there was a little shop just on the way. When I got on the train I was a bit dismayed though, because it was absolutely rammed with people. It was so full and my carriage was full of teenage boys. And I'm always I feel slightly self-conscious having a drink by myself on a train sometimes, especially if you're sitting next to a stranger. I'm not sure why, but I was kind of sitting there hoping that it would empty out a little bit, and it did. Quite soon after Brockenhurst station you hit Southampton, which is a big place, so lots of people got off there. So thankfully the train thinned out, but I'd started to have this strange sensation with my eye just as I got on the train. It felt like something was in my eye, but also I couldn't see or feel anything there. I woke up the next morning with a really more pronounced feeling like there was something in my eye. It was quite painful, and I could see a weird kind of lump. So I kind of got to the optician as quickly as I could, and it turned out I've got a pinguecula, I think it's pronounced. I could be wrong about that, but that's from memory what it's called. But it's just like a little lump in your eye, which can be caused by a lot of UV exposure. So I was really annoyed with myself that I'd been hiking all day without sunglasses. There's a reason, even though it's not particularly sunny today, there's a reason I'm now wearing my sunglasses. I'd been so worried about the fact that I'd forgotten my sun cream. I was worried about my skin burning, and in the end it didn't at all. That I hadn't even thought to put my sunglasses on. I had them with me, but I just walked all day without them, and then had this kind of injury to the eye. I mean, there are various things that can cause it, and it can just happen with age as well, but I think probably the walking in the sun all day didn't really help. And there's nothing that can be done to treat it. It's just kind of there now. Hopefully it might go away, it might not, but it stopped being painful. So all I'm going to do is kind of make sure I wear my sunglasses from now on. I've been very resistant to wearing them in the past because I don't really like wearing sunglasses. I really love, visually I love sunshine, and I find when I wear sunglasses I don't enjoy, looking at the sun. The sun hitting plants and things just doesn't look the same, but I always said if there was a health reason why I had to start wearing them, I would, so hence. So yeah, that's just to wrap up the end of my hike and what happened the next day. Luckily I was overdue for an eye appointment anyway, for a checkup. I started wearing glasses this year I only really need them for close-up work, so when I'm working on my artwork, I have to wear them, and I was overdue for a checkup anyway, so I managed to get the eye health thing seen to and a new prescription at the same time. So yeah, it was an enjoyable walk. I think the first half was definitely the more fun part. It was really varied, and I got to see those beautiful kind of American trees, the redwoods and things. Then the second half was really off the beaten track. As you could probably tell, some of it was quite a struggle, but it was still really enjoyable. I'd wanted to spend the whole day in the woods, and I got to do that, and I saw a lot of lovely sort of free roaming animals as well. So yeah, a really good day out, and next time I'll be wearing sunglasses for the whole thing.